Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to panel discussion about the topic, leveraging AI and automation in DevOps for sustainable and scalable infrastructure management.
Hello everybody, welcome to the panel discussion about leveraging AI for sustainable and scalable infrastructure management. With me is Yishai, Albert and Anurag, and I think we start with a small introduction, right? Yishai, you want to start?
Thank you. Thanks. So my name is Yishai. I am the CTO at LinnerB. We are a company that focuses on developer productivity and experience, automations for the some of the work happening between developers and reviewers all the way to getting code to production. Happy to be here.
Thank you.
My name is Albert, and currently I'm the cloud architect and leader of IT operations and DevOps. And well, my background is directly also in the startup world, and in fact starting from the engineering positions, ending directly on the position in which I was responsible for building the operations and process. And I think that it will be the major point in this discussion from my side. Thank you.
Hello everyone, my name is Anurag. Is it working?
Yeah, it's perfect.
Yeah.
My name is Anurag, and I am a cloud architect. I work for a car company based out of Sweden, an electric cars company. I'm not allowed to tell the name, unfortunately, but you'll figure it out later anyways. And I'm also an AWS data hero. So I'll be bringing in the data engineering and let's say organization of data aspects of making sure that you can actually leverage AI for making a lot of infrastructure decisions.
Okay, thank you. Well, my name is Michael Kaufmann. I'm the managing director of Xebia in Germany. Xebia is a consulting company. We do IT consulting, and I'm in the consulting business for nearly 25 years now. And I do DevOps since 15 years, so we did not call it DevOps then. It was more ALM, and then it evolved into DevOps, and I was in that phase. And yeah, I wrote some books about also DevOps, and yeah, I'm a Microsoft regional director, Microsoft MVP, and yeah, speak at a lot of conferences and give a lot of trainings. So happy to be here. So infrastructure management. Anurag, we talked earlier, and you said for you it's really important the data aspect. So what kind of data would you collect, or what is your approach here if customers would ask you, okay, how do we do AI for infrastructure management?
Perfect. Yep. So again, the topic says that we want to leverage AI in order to make smart decisions about our infrastructure, right? So in order to do that, you need to take a step back and first collect the data in a way that is consistent across your landscape. So when I say consistent across your landscape, if you're using cloud, if you're using on-prem, if you're using multiple technologies, you want all of your software to emit the data in a way that remains consistent across the landscape. So utilizing some of the technologies like open telemetry, for example. So if you're looking at, again, that's very crucial to get your telemetry data or observability data, as they call it, the traces, metrics, and all of this. You want to make sure that it is consistent across your landscape. If you're utilizing tools that have these implementation methods that are proprietary, then you will have pieces of information that are spread out across about the consumption of your infrastructure, and you'll only have bits and pieces of data that you will not be able to put together. So I would say, if you want to make sure that you want to utilize AI, take a step back, think about your data, how are you collecting it. Once you think how you are collecting it, how are you storing it and making it available? So that's my starting point.
But one more question. The approach would be, you would always be in favor of, okay, build your own AI solution on top of that data, or would you say, okay, there are already a lot of operation tools out there that have now AI built in? So what would be the preferred way in your opinion?
It's a mix of both. So let's say you as a company, you have certain systems, certain software that are really commercial, that are like business support applications, let's say, which are not really bringing any additional revenue to your company, right? So I'll be really happy to outsource the optimization of that to the companies who have built in AI into their ecosystem, because they know really well that particular ecosystem, how you can operationalize it. But there are pieces of software that I have that only belongs to me as a company, and that is differentiating me in the entire, let's say, landscape of products that I'm offering. So the consumption, infrastructure consumption, your logs, metrics, and traces they will be unique to your consumption patterns. So if that is the case, then I cannot rely on a generically made model that these people are providing. So for those cases, I would say invest in your infrastructure, invest in your building your own AI models. Now, when I say AI, I'm not pointing to just Gen AI. Again, that's the case right now. Everybody, when they think AI is Gen AI, no, there is traditional AI, there is machine learning, and that will put you on a path to make the best use of your data that is generated by your applications.
But we talked earlier, and you said it's very much about the process and how we can feed AI into the process. So
right, and I would like also to emphasize one thing, which is about directly data quality. Like in my career, is like the second moment on which we talk about using artificial intelligence, and it's next time when we want to use AI, so we can make slides, so we can tell to everyone, yeah, we are AI company, but we start like with data quality, that we understand like what's going on and what's the process. One example which is not related to AI, but it's almost exactly the same. So imagine the case, and it's like in fact one of the use cases, that there was like the company in which someone decided to start using Terraform for infrastructure as code. And there was only like one guy who became a kind of evangelist across the company. But the problem was that some of the infrastructure was managed with this Terraform, some not. And that's exactly the same thing when we talk about using artificial intelligence, because the thing is that the main goal is that it will streamline process, it will simplify things, so that we can deliver, as DevOps team, we can deliver directly to developers a special panel which will streamline the process. It will not replace people, it can like optimize our time, but the thing is that it needs to become like a crucial, like a major component of the process, not that someone will be able to bypass it. It's exactly like with pull requests. But like the good approach is that we can block making, like self-approval for a pull request, and then yes, it's merged, for example, to production. The key point is that we build something that will be used across the company. That's our goal, and that's also like very important thing when we talk about return of investment. As always, when we talk about adding new tool, we don't do it because it's trendy, but because it will generate value.
Okay.
Most projects do it because it's trendy and fun.
I agree.
We're developers, right? We use tools because they're trendy, not because they bring value.
DevOps.
DevSecOps.
Yeah, where's the business people?
So, Yishai, what do you think? Maybe also let's talk a little bit about the value from AI. So, what do you think where AI will bring value? So, one is we collect the data, we look at the process, but what is the goal, right? So, what do you think can we achieve over the next years?
Yeah, so we discussed this a little earlier, and you mentioned the process, and I'm thinking AI, and in particular the new kinds of developments, Gen AI, and getting closer to some sort of intelligence. So it's not intelligent, but the place where it shines is an ability to summarize and help people ingest a lot of information. So knowledge, building the playbooks, understanding, like teaching new people on the team, this is how we work. Augmenting the process with this is similar to 10 previous use cases, 10 previous incidents. This is what we did then. All of these are very natural places for AI to chip in and say, oh, there's a wealth of information, very unstructured in many places. So there's collected data, but there's also RCAs and previous tickets and incidents and Slacks and emails. I can use all of that to help the data build and help people know more faster about what they need to do here. I think that's probably a key component.
And I think AI today is at a state where it evolved a lot over the last years, right? With the large language models, I mean, this was a big boost. But we are still in the point where we still have the co-pilot, right? So we still have the human that does that needs to be there to autocorrect, because AI may fail. So
you need someone to blame.
Yeah, but someone to steer. So the main steering, there's still the human, and the co-pilot assists and creates a lot of value and adds value to it. And I think at some point in the future this will shift. And I think especially in infrastructure management, we need at the end very binary decisions. So it either works or it does not work. So if you have a co-pilot or if you have AI and it hallucinates from time to time, then your data center is down and you don't want that. So it's still a lot of the co-pilot on your side, meaning augmentation of tickets, writing postmortems, analyzing it, proposing new things. But this will also generate more quality in all the data you have on operations. Right? You can have more data, you can make more with it, and this will accelerate over the next years. And then at some point it will shift, and then AI will do most of the heavy lifting of the decisions, and then you only pull humans in for some exceptions.
And I think that one important thing here is that it's a really great tool, for example, for knowledge sharing or building like the internal knowledge sharing, right? Because one of the problems is always documentation. No one likes to write documentation, let's be honest. So that's like the great case for artificial intelligence to do like this boring stuff, right? And then we can generate information, because that's always like the problem when we, for example, onboard someone, right? And we need to provide information, or that we have, for example, our infrastructure as code, we have like everything automated, right? But we need to have like the description, okay, but what is the dependency? Why we have something in this place? Because we have comment or annotation about something. I think that's like very valuable thing in which AI, or even right now, can do their job perfectly. Because it's like documentation, that's something in which AI can be, in my opinion, much better than anyone.
So AI writes the documentation, and then AI reads that documentation.
And that's the circle of acceleration.
Circle of life.
Yeah.
Remove the man in the middle.
Yeah, I think that's true. And for example, GitHub, they do chat ops for many years, right? Issue ops and chat ops. So they have everything in Slack, and they automate everything in infrastructure, shutting down things, rebooting them. It's really great if you have new engineers onboarding. They can go look at that day, and they have the incident, and everything is documented there. So that's perfect to put AI on top of it. But now, if I look, for example, at Microsoft, they also use heavily AI to run Azure, right? But they are not so focused on chat-ups. They had different systems, and now with Teams meeting and everything. But now with Copilot, suddenly these Teams meetings are not just a meeting, right? That used to be. It was a meeting, and something came out, something happened. It was a very critical incident. Nobody would document that. Today, you have a Copilot say, "Oh, give me the summary of that meeting," and suddenly you have good data. And this along the entire operations chain, this generates a lot of quality data that then now accelerates the entire process. And I think that's the interesting part. So it's I don't know where we exactly here, but I think it's only a few years, and the quality of data we are producing now that will generate a lot of new use cases, and where the agents can basically do most of this stuff autonomous.
It's like related even to log analytics, right? As we can have like our Elasticsearch, or for some cases in cybersecurity. Is it like, I would say, early stage, right? We have still a lot of false positive. But it's like the domain in which I see like the great case, as we have like a huge volume of data, right? And then we need to find someone in the team to process this data. And I think it also connected directly to shortage of skills in the market, right? So who in the company can do it fast?
I will add another angle to it, I would say. If you look at any big enterprises, their problem is not data availability. Their problem is taking actions from the data that is available. So if I am a early stage engineer, let's say first couple of years of experience, and you throw me a big JSON blob, like a file, which is 5 gigs in size, and people are like, here you go. That's the logs that are generated by this application. It's acting weirdly. Can you go and find the errors for me? Right? I mean, you take this, augment this, and put for a 10-year experienced engineer, he or she is gonna have the same problems, right? So these are the places, like you said in the beginning, where we can use AI as augmented tooling, right? So can I build, use, buy, share, rent, subscribe, whatever, some sort of models that are heavily trained across these kind of use cases? So I have a big blob, I pass it through the AI, and it is co-piloting with the engineer. It is enabling the engineer, and then they are in a position to say, okay, I think, the Kubernetes, the pods that are in the Kubernetes, they are having a conflict because they are trying to deploy the pods at the same time. So that kind of insights, trying to build it out of that particular file, maybe it would have been impossible for a human with 10 gigs of logs to figure that out.
And not just a file, adding more data sources and combining them with the right timestamps. Because then if you do the, I don't know, GitOps and you have your Kubernetes files in Git and your AI has access to both, and they say, oh, here changed something and here's the log that changed with it a few minutes after. So this is probably correlated.
Yeah. AI is extremely good at finding patterns that human eyes cannot see. That's the reality. That's how AI is built, right? And we need to find ways in which we can utilize that to the fullest. So if, for example, if I give somebody an axe and ask them to let's just blow up the car, right? They can blow up the car with an axe, but it's going to be painful because axe is made to be take down a tree. So similarly, we need to figure out, okay, when you say AI, there are so many types of AIs out there, and each of these AIs are built to do certain aspects of this. So if you want to apply it on your infrastructure needs, fine tuning is required. That's my point. I mean, this is a whole long story, but my point is, yes, fine tuning of AI is required, and these are the cases where AI will shine if you make the best use of it.
And costs are also an important topic now, right? Since we throw Gen AI on everything, and suddenly the response times are really slow, which is also a problem in infrastructure management, and the costs are very high. So do you?
I think in the context of an incident where you're comparing that to human time, it's almost always cheaper. Like getting even if there's a cost perspective, if it's not about like resolve everything all the time, but you're dealing with an incident and you're saving developer time, the math is always in favor of automating.
Yeah, that's definitely true. Yeah, but if you want to have like some scaling up, scaling down logic where you have to react, then it's basically Gen AI out of game. It's too expensive and too slow.
And also like one thing to which I think we made another came back. So it's about like data. So if we use like some software as a service, do we want to provide our company information to third party? And that's even like the case with ChatGPT, when many employees just copy and pasted company information to ChatGPT because, well, they didn't have like the knowledge that in fact they shared like sometimes confidential information, like the case of Samsung employees when they provided some information about semiconductors product directly to ChatGPT. And now companies are aware of availability of these tools, and their employees would like to use these tools, right? Because like it can simplify their work. And that's the thing on which I think it's on the one side a kind of like blocker for many implementations, and on the second like a great chance for many projects, especially for self-hosted, some open source, that all data will be owned like by the company. And in fact, it will also mean that like only big companies will be able to build very valuable internal AI because they have a huge amount of data.
There's probably a middle ground where some fine-tuning at the industry level or the tech stack level, right? This is how you can study a log from a specific type of system, and then larger companies will do fine-tuning on these are my apps, these are my applicative logs, these are my specific private to me kind of setups.
Yeah, that's where my point from earlier that I'm trying to keep is that there is a division of labor. So the big companies who are providing me the models, they expect some aspects that I as a company need to take care of my own data. That's where your data engineering principles, your data engineering practices comes into place. Are you building, again, data engineering is all about building pipelines, and pipelines inherently is nothing but automation. So if you want to make the best use of AI, you need to, again, take a step back, ask yourself, okay, how do I make, in order to make the best use of AI, I need to get provided the best data with the best data quality. How can I get it? I need to build idempotent data pipelines that can bring the data back to this AI. How can I build idempotent data pipelines to build practices and to build principles that you can then keep consistent across your infrastructure landscape, which will then give you the opportunity to make the best use.
One example also of usage of like any kind of AI is even like cost optimization in cloud. As bets, I think, like as when we talk about costs in the cloud, in most cases we deploy all the services, right? Everything is pay as you go, so we have this flexibility. But in many cases, like engineers or someone who's responsible in the company, they may not have like the knowledge from day one. So that's the place in which, as we have like some patterns, for example, of usage of Kubernetes, right? So that system can detect at what specific time we should scale up or scale down our system. For example, which specific tool available in the cloud would be like the best fit, right? Because like the cost for this, for our specific case, as each company has different, we can have like the different number of events, different size, which would impact the cost. And I think that's like very nice case for AI, not specifically like Gen AI, except that it's good to put like in the presentations to stakeholders, right? That we implemented Gen AI, but that's the place.
Kubernetes operator will probably do, yeah.
Yes. So it's even stronger with Kubernetes Gen AI, and I think that's like very interesting domain in which it's just useful, and that's also like what the cloud providers try to do, like from their side at least.
Yeah, I mean, I've been so far being so against Gen AI that I want to clarify that no, I see Gen AI as a very good potential, but Gen AI inherently, the large language models are built on the semantics of the language, right, for the English. So for the use cases where you said, okay, I have a RCA report, I have a incident report, and I have multiple these kind of reports that are going across that are written in human languages. Those are the areas where Gen AI shine because they are built for that purposes. If you take Gen AI and apply it to process your logs, perhaps it is going to be still able to figure out something, but it's not meant for it. So utilize those pieces of AIs in the right spots, orchestrate them through automation. So this is where AI ops, maybe ML ops, something like that comes across, which helps you do this automation, making sure that the chain of custody for utilizing AI remains consistent across your use cases. We have established.
I'm not agreeing that AI is not good for analyzing your logs, because in your logs you have a timestamp and you have some.
Gen AI is not. AI is, but Gen AI is not.
No, but you always have a logging string from the developer that you will also find in your source code at some point, right? So, and if you have an AI that knows your source code and knows your logs, and then they can perfectly match, this log is from that line, and suddenly this knowledge of language is important, right? So
this line changed yesterday at night.
Exactly. Yeah. So there was a deployment. So there's a lot of knowledge that because it's not just the English language or general language. Absolutely. AI can also combine things very logically.
I mean, it's semantics. So it learns itself on semantics. But we are making an assumption that we are changing Gen AI models, or we are feeding into the Gen AI things that it can understand. So RAG is the current way of modifying Gen AI so that it can do that. But even for us to utilize RAG effectively, we need to have data engineering practices, because if I do not have data, I cannot feed good data to the Gen AI through RAG. So
I think another example where you bridge the Gen AI or LLM capabilities with the problem of making sense of a 10 gig log file or multiple correlated files. A typical developer or person doing RCA is at that scale needs to write code or queries to, okay, I think there's a problem with the ports. Let's find the relevant log lines. So that often takes time. Just running, or how do I query these two files which are in different formats to prove my point? And Gen AI can help me write that query. So you can ask, give me the relevant log lines. It will do an internal RAG cycle to create the query or the in whatever tech stack you're using, and get you that result faster. So it's an augmentation of pure development, if you like, for the RCA. Even if you haven't ingested the full 10 gigs into the context of your...
that exactly is the part of the topic, which is automation. So AI alone will not be your survivor, or it won't be able to help us take to the level that we are expecting. It also needs to be supported by good practices around automation. So I don't see either of them surviving without the other.
So we talked about RAG, but maybe let's talk a little bit about agents, because I think this is also will change a lot. So what's your take on agent, and how will they impact, well, in AI in general, but of course also for infrastructure management?
I think, okay, sorry, since I was here, I'll start. So I think agents will be really helpful, but I think the way we are building agents, I'm guessing it won't be on proprietary AI algorithms. So I'm specifically looking at OpenAI because that's the most common aspects of it. But with the recent announcements about Llama being really good as ChatGPT, I think agent would be mostly private LLMs that are modified on private data in an isolated environment that are specific to your company, let's say, because there have been a lot of news that ethical use of data by OpenAI is questionable at this moment. So yes, agents will be the big case, but I think the building blocks of agents would be open source LLMs.
So self-hosted, like closed wall agents?
Yes, not even small. So Llama 3, for example, I think it was launched by Meta a few days ago. It has twice the token capacity as ChatGPT, but it kind of assumes that you have the infrastructure in place. So I think right now the bottleneck for that is infrastructure, because not all of the companies will be able to afford that infrastructure. But this is where also small language models come into place, which were again recently launched by Microsoft, if I'm not mistaken. So a combination of these SLMs, LLMs, open source, fine-tuned to your use case, where you ensure that the data of the LLM is not going beyond your company's boundaries. That's where I see agents succeed.
I already have customers that use agents to automate some things in the ticket system. So if they open a ticket, they would have one agent that would ask another agent, or at the end an LLM, right? So give me a solution for that. And then it would validate this, and it's like a three agents that talk to each other. And so you would have this cycle, and then it would check, no, I think you're hallucinating, this is not the solution. And it will go back and ask it again until the solution is like 99%, and then it would hand it back to the human, still to a human to approve. But then this way, of course, this takes some time and money, of course, it's not cheap, but it just shows, I think, the power of distributing this on multiple agents.
I think, like any other profession, 80% of what we do, even in this space, is simple work. Like, not everything is a terribly difficult and complex problem to solve. There are a lot of simple tasks. There are things that where a junior coming into the team would typically handle. That is what we usually see as the starting point for agents. You need to document a change in some way, or to make a very standard but boring update across multiple places. That's a great ticket for an agent to go and run with eventual oversight by a human, maybe without.
And how will it affect licensing
of the agents?
Of software in general? I mean, that's something I thought a few weeks ago, and then it was like, okay, so we used to do licensing on buying software, right, and then selling updates, and then with the cloud, it changed completely to a subscription model. Now, like every software runs more or less on a subscription model, but now suddenly with agents, I mean, thinking a few years in the future, where the co-pilot experience is not the co-pilot, but the main experience, and the other one is on the round, and more agents are talking to each other. So I have my personal assistant token, that agent that will talk to yours, and figure out when we meet and something, and already book the restaurant and everything. And so we will still pay per user. Will we pay per agent? Will we pay
per request?
There will be a difference, right?
Well, I think pricing is always shifted towards value. So if it's not about the cost of producing the software or running it, if you're only as a vendor trying to get some margin over your cost to deliver, then you're playing a very short-sighted game. So charging for some, like for usage, if this is or consumption based, is trying to tie to value. If I'm using agents internally to run my stuff, I don't see that as affecting my pricing structure. But agents will become not just an internal method to keep my lights on, agents will become part of my product that is customer facing, right?
It will in the future replace humans, right? So instead of having here an employee hiring here, you probably can replace it with an agent at some point.
Yes, but I'm talking about there's internal. How do I keep my system running, right? With most of our talk today is internal facing, but I think we realize most of our software, which is customer facing, will also be changing and look more like agents. You're using my, my workspace solution. Now there's agents. You're using my calendar solution. There's agents. You're using my planning solution. All of these now become agent assisted as part of my value to customers. And yes, that will give me an opportunity to charge some uplift because my software is smarter.
I think the costing it's a very complex topic at the moment, because all of the people who are selling AI augmented services, whether through bots or whether through agents or through regular aspects, their price comparison point is the price put by OpenAI at this moment. But it's a fact that OpenAI is absorbing a lot of this cost behind the scenes because they have plenty of VC money at this moment. But what happens when the VC money runs out? The probability of the base cost getting down or increasing by 2-3x, we cannot discount it. So the point that I'm trying to make is, right now, whatever things we do, it's a shot in the dark, because we don't have a baseline for us to compare what AI costs.
Unless you're selling GPUs.
Absolutely, that's the money minting business right now, or as they call it, selling shovels.
Shovels, yeah.
Yes. But yes, I think we will see some modern or some new take on the on the pricing models for the agents, which would probably be, maybe again I'm taking a guess in the wild, maybe it would be pay for each successful outcome of the agent. Like if you're trying to schedule a lunch meeting with 50 different VCs, and if it is able to target one VC and able to get you lunch, you will only pay for that particular instance and not pay for the 49 let's say different things that that agent was not able to get. Again, that's an interesting pricing model that could come. And with the agents, I think, just a side note, it's the insurance industry that will also come up with some pricing, let's say, shenanigans. And that would be interesting space to watch in the future.
To insure me against the AI hallucinations? And
also insuring yourself so that your your AI agent is not, if they do some mistakes.
Yes.
I need to have some sort of insurance against it.
Yeah, so we go one more time that, yeah, automation is great, but in the end, it's like the case, in the end, there must be a human. It's like with autonomous cars. We talk about autonomous cars for so many years, but then we go to the problem, okay, there is the accident, and who is responsible for it? Currently, of course, the driver, because driver needs to be like responsible and need to observe if the system works correctly. And we'll go to the exactly same problem also like in this DevOps domain, right? Because, okay, something is deployed. But imagine the case that, for example, it will start 1,000 of virtual machines by mistake. And who will be responsible later? That's also like the very difficult part. And yeah, I think that it can be great business for insurance.
In my opinion, this is always very difficult in theory, and practically it's not, because humans do errors, machines not, right? So or at least much less, right? So if you just look at how many car accidents are caused by humans, and then if you look how many are caused by autonomous cars, that's a quite easy discussion with the insurance companies, right? So, and I think that's figured out quite easily. So legally it's a little bit more complex, but in the end,
even given those numbers, it's been hard to make autonomous cars a reality. Not because of technology.
I don't think it's the insurance.
It's the legal and moral.
And it's exactly like in the IT that, from an engineering perspective, we can do everything. It's not a problem. We can deliver. But the part is when we go to the business and legal team, they will challenge it. And like from legal or business perspective, it may be just too high risk level in comparison to the return of the investment. And that's like this I would say always very challenging moment in which we need to merge like this engineering world in which it's doable. And like from probability perspective, from like data perspective, is not the problem. Because we need to put it on PowerPoint and to present to someone who may be like against. And I think that it will take a lot of years also to educate about like upsides and downsides of such solutions.
So, do we have any questions from the audience or not yet? Okay, so then let's continue.
Maybe a bot somewhere, an agent wants to ask questions.
Oh yeah, we should have a
Yeah,
question.
it failed. That's the reason.
I did this with some conference talks during Corona, and because in online conferences people would not ask questions, so I would have FQ&A and then already ask my own questions that I will answer. So we could do that and have a bot. Yeah.
And
Okay.
that's, I think, like quite interesting that in DevOps, well, it's mostly engineering, right? And that's like this domain in the company which is mainly led by engineers. So that's like very nice greenfield in which we can play, we can make experiments, and we can have like the full support. But when we go to some like more business critical, then I would say, based on my experience, it always go to very like basic questions, especially like with legal and business team, which may have like different approach to things, and even some like this data-driven decisions, but they are not like very much data-driven.
Your talk also covered this earlier with governance, right? So a lot of the governance things are not the rules, but the rules the company lays on their own. So they create the policies and then they think the policies are made in stone and then, oh, we're going to do this because of the policy. And no, you can change the policy and then you can do it.
Yeah, but I think there's even inside the engineering bubble where we could, in theory, be more adventurous and experiment with technology and rely on technology more. I'm thinking about that conversation with the manager. The system went down because the AI made a mistake versus the system went down because John made a mistake. And the first conversation is very hard. Like, okay, what do we do now? How do we prevent it from happening again? All of that. People are used, there's already a good practice of what to do when it's a human mistake. And there's still not a good way or a comfortable way to deal with the AI made a mistake. Okay, how do we prevent it?
Why?
Why did it make a mistake? Yeah, so
No, but it's the same
Why is that
question,
the-
right?
why
If
is that
if John was able to shut down our data center by accident, so what can we do that this
we
will
just
not
have
happen again? Right?
thousands of years of
And-
experience with human blame and with human skills and capacity or incapacity. It's natural to us to say, oh, the stars is like God made a move. That's a way to explain the unexplainable, or blame someone, or maybe say, okay, let's fire this person, or let's train this person, or let's tie their hands so they can't spin up those.
I hope the companies will not fire someone for making a mistake, because that's
What I'm saying is that
basically
there's a lot of human experience in dealing with that, and not so much with there's a opaque algorithm that I'm not going to debug the LLM, right? It's out of scope. Now it's okay, how do I hedge? And if you're starting to work on hedging the algorithm, you've already lost a lot because you're now tying its hands. So it can't do this, it can't do that. I need a human to blame at the end if they made a mistake overseeing the.
But if your process works and you have a blameless post-mortem, right, and you analyze what caused the incident, you fixed it later on, and you do it, and then there was an agent that did something wrong, right? And it's the same then it's a human. It's okay, how could this happen? And then you might need another agent, you might need some quality control, you might need to adjust some metrics that, okay, this might have been an edge case, and maybe there should have been a human intervention. But so it's like the normal process. It doesn't matter if this error was caused by a machine, by a config file, by network issue or something, or a human or an AI, right? It doesn't matter. It was the entire process that failed at that point, and you have to look at the bigger picture, ask the 5 whys, they do a root cause analysis, and then try to fix the root cause. And if the root cause is the AI, then you need to adjust something there. But I don't see a big
agree
difference.
Globally. I'm saying it's a lot less comfortable for existing humans,
Yeah.
which is why it's taking longer.
Yeah, that's true. It's new, and
Yeah,
you have
now
to
we
get
have a question.
used to it. Oh, there's a question. What do you see as the next big steps that are not possible now but will be in a few years? That's a great question. Who want to take first?
Yeah, I'll take a stab at it. I would say we will see new models of what it's called as auto scaling in infrastructure, that we have not seen right now. So let me give you an example. If you are in a Kubernetes space, or if you are in a serverless space, you tend to have a component called as application load balancer or network load balancer or whatever that takes in certain parameters that you have to arbitrarily decide. Again, believe me, 90% of the teams don't know why they set that threshold, right? So they are unable. You are upscaling or downscaling depending on that arbitrary numbers without rethinking where those numbers came from, or what is the right time to reevaluate those aspects. So I think that's one big area where we are going to see a big change, because companies like Amazon, Google, and Microsoft, they will have a lot of data that they have collected from ALBs. That's going to bring in the patterns that will work just out of the box for 99% of the use cases. So that's one aspect very close to infrastructure, where I see auto-scaling becomes a commodity rather than a good thing to have in the next few years, which is right now, it's on the onus is on you to configure it right, but it will come out of the box.
Yeah, I do see like the case in which on each employee's laptop verbally installed this agent, and that like currently we have internal developer portal, right, in which developers can create like their temporary environments, that everything will be moved to a single place, a kind of chatbot, in my opinion, in which they will be able to create everything what they need for their software development, and that there will be like the single space which will be able also to track their activities and understand what they do if they do any kind of the mistakes. So it will be like shift left, but not directly in the pipeline, but it will be moved directly to the computer of developer.
I think one area that we may see as a enhancement in the coming years, and it's a combination of the models becoming smaller or things that I can start to embed. I think there's going to be a shift from centralized infrastructure management to a little more decentralized or even embedded. So a process could take care of its own, or a CPU could make some smart moves on where am I spending my cycles, depending on local signals, instead of having a master octopus that is driving the decisions, the auto-scaling decisions across everything. We now collect all the signals to one place and make a decision, and think of every CPU cycle making a decision based on local inputs, but enough power to do predictions. And now you have this emerging self-optimizing kind of grid, which is decentralized. No central place makes the decision.
Interesting. Yeah. I think also we did already a little bit in that direction. I think right now it's a lot about augmentation of incidents, of tickets, and then gathering data, creating better data. But I think in a few years, I think 99% of the incidents that they will be handled by AI. AI will know what to do in this case. Something is down, something's not working, clearing the cache, starting services. So and this system will learn and learn. So you will always need less human interactions. And I mean the data center providers, they're huge. They scale extremely. They have a really big interest in doing it, and they have the tools to do it. So I think that will be one of the areas that will all lead in that space, because it's a lot of money. We have another question. You mentioned AI and agents taking over junior tasks. Does this not also create the problem junior entry-level jobs are fading? The future seniors.
Sure, I'll take that. So there is, if you look at evolution of history of our mankind, you will always see that when you introduce a tool, it kind of creates that fear that my jobs are going to take over, are going to be taken over. A classic example of that is accountants and calculators. Because when calculators came along, accountants thought, okay, my job is gone, because everything that I do is that's what the calculator is doing. But if you look at history again, accountants are not hired because they can do math. They are hired because they understand the domain of accounting. So that's what I see. The junior jobs that we have right now, where we tend to, again, not everywhere, but most of the companies where they tend to give the bread crumbles or bread pieces, like very odd jobs to juniors. That will change, where juniors, when they enter, they will do real work, using AI as their friend, as a mentor, as a person who can guide them a little bit when the AI becomes strong enough. But there will be a weird phase in this industry for the 5-10 years until the point, or I'm stretching it, maybe 2-3 years, until when AI is not that good enough, where we will have to, where the juniors will, I think, will struggle. And I'm not saying this out of my own, let's say, because I think so, because this was shared by another person who works in RISE, that is Research Institute of Sweden, who published a report about AI and its effects on junior entry-level jobs.
Yeah, and I think it's the same. Like when, for example, Ansible, Chef or Puppet was introduced, it was exactly the same because it was automating the work, which was.
And I think we're not only talking about junior entry-level jobs. I mean, AI will take over more jobs, and a lot of lawyers, I think, can be replaced by AI because it can do it better. Not everybody, of course, but there are more jobs that will go away. And I mean, in the future, we will be happy probably because we do not have enough people to fill all the jobs. But there will be some time where also the entire society has to look in their eyes. Okay, how do we distribute the money? Because right now it is done by salaries, and then in the future, if we have agents, because it tucks a little bit in our discussions we had earlier about the licensing, so then in the future it's okay, how do we distribute the money from the company so that everybody has enough? But I think that's a too complicated thing to take it over now, because I think we're over time, and I see people already getting a little bit nervous. So thanks for the good discussion, and
thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. We will be outside on the Ask Me Anything box if you feel like asking follow-up questions, and we will leave this for the next talk, I guess.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.